Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see the architecture in medieval period. So before getting into the topic, let us see some of the introduction regarding the architecture of the medieval period. First of all, when this medieval period started? So if you see, we can divide the history broadly into three types: ancient, medieval and the modern. So if you see this medieval period, it is present between the ancient and the medieval period, and the timeline, it is from the 6th century to the 18th century AD. So if you see the Indian architecture, why there is an influence of the Islam, it is seen mainly in the medieval period. If you go back to the history, in 712 AD, we saw there is a Sindh conquest by the Arabs happened, and later on it led to the entry of the Islamic rulers into the western parts of the India. And by the 12th century, we saw the Delhi throne which is occupied by the Islamic rulers, and that led to the onset of the medieval period. And later on, after the years of passing, there is the influence of this Muslim architecture or the Islam architecture that is seen in the Indian architecture. So the Indian architecture saw a massive change after the 12th century AD. So if you see, there is also the local architecture that is followed by the local craftsmen. So there is a mixture of the Islamic and also the Indian architecture. So this type of the architecture is called as Indo-Islamic architecture or Indo-Saracenic architecture. There are some unique features of this Indo-Islamic architecture. They use the Arcuate style, they use the minarets, and they use the cement or the mortar as a cementing material, and also they use the charbagh style. They use the water inside this architecture, and they also started using the Erebus Key Method, Pityatura method, and also they use the different types of the jali works, and they mainly focus on the symmetry. So in this way, we see there is a massive change that is seen in the Indo-Islamic architecture. So there are some important features that are unique to this Indo-Islamic architecture. When you are studying this medieval period, we will come across the two important kingdoms or the dynasties. The first one is Delhi Sultanate, and the second one is the Mughal period. In the Delhi Sultanate, there are mainly 5 dynasties. They include the Slave, Khiljis, Tughlaqs, Sayyids and the Lodi. So in this lecture, we are going to see about the architecture of the Delhi Sultanates. So let's get started with our lecture. So if you see here, the first slide of this lecture, that is with the Arab conquest in the Sindh in the 712 AD, it led to the arrival of the Islamic rulers into the western frontiers of the India. And by the 12th century AD, the throne of the Delhi had been occupied by an Islamic ruler. And in the subsequent years, the Indo-Islamic or the Indian architecture that went a massive change, and they introduced a new elements like the calligraphy, like the ornamentation. They used the inlay work, etc. And that reflect the preferences and also the taste of those Islamic rulers. But if you see, there are also the local architecture is present. So in this, there will be the confluence of the local architecture, that is Indian architecture, along with this Islamic architecture. So this type of the style is known as Indo-Islamic architecture or Indo-Saracenic architecture. So this is some of the introduction regarding the medieval architecture. So if you see, there are some features of the Indo-Islamic architecture that you should remember, because you may get a direct question regarding these features of the Indo-Islamic architecture in your mains. So let us see those features. The first one is they started using of arches and the domes, and they gained the prominence in this period. Before also we started using these domes and also arches, but not that prominence. But the prominence came to these arches and the dome with the entry of this Islam. And the next one is, it is also known as Arcuate style of architecture, and it replaced the traditional Trabeate style. If you see the Trabeate style, it means there are 2 pillars are present. On these 2 pillars, there is another pillar that is placed in this position. So this type of the style, it is called as a traditional Trabeate style. And if you see the Arcuate style, they introduced the arc, this like or this like. We see this type of the architecture that started during the medieval period. So this type of the style or this type of the style, it is called as Arcuate style. And in this context, you should remember what are the differences between the Trabeate style of architecture and also the Arcuate style. It is very, very important regarding the prelims and also the mains point of view. And let us come back. The Islamic rulers, they introduced the use of the minars, and these minars are used around the mosque and also the museums. And the important feature of this Indo-Islamic architecture is they started using the mortar mortar as a cementing agent for their constructions. And the next one is the Indo-Islamic architecture. It avoided the use of the human and also animal figurines. They started using the geometrical designs like the squares, like the circles, like the octagons, etc. And next important feature is, while the Hindu architecture, it had become too congested, that means very congested, and this Islamic architecture, it introduced the spaciousness. They are very, very large and also very, very big in structure, that is the massiveness, and also breadth to it. And they started using the different sculptures. Okay, so while the previous structures and used the sculptures as a means of decoration, they avoided actually the human figurines and also the animal figurines. So what to use for the decoration purpose? They started using the calligraphy means for the decoration. This calligraphy, it is mainly used for the decoration. So mainly the sentences which are present in their Quran, they started using those. So this is called as simply calligraphy. And they started the Erebus Key Method. This Erebus Key Method is very, very, very nice and very, very beautiful as well. So if you see this picture it is called as Erebus Key Method. So in this there is a stem, and to this stem it is decorated with the different types of the methods. Okay, so if you see here, Arabesque, it meant for the using of the geometrical vegetal ornamentation, and it is characterized by a continuous stem is present, and it will be split it regularly, and it will produce a series of the counterpoised, leafy and the secondary stems. Okay, so if you see, it is a principal stem and it have the other stems as well, and they are very muchly and designed with the leaves and the flowers, etc. So this type of the ornamentation, it is called as Arabesque method. And if you see the secondary stems, in turn they split again and they return to merge with the main stem, creating a decorative pattern. So this is the pattern that describes the Arabesque design. And let us see the next important feature, that is the architecture of this period, which is heavily used the principles of the geometric form of the decorative pattern. They mainly focused on the symmetry. That means they use the different shapes like the circles. They use the different shapes like the square, rectangle, octagon, etc. And the next one is, the one important feature of this Indo-Islamic architecture is the jali work. So whenever they use the jali, it will help in the entry of the light into the room. So they mainly focused on the light in the Islamic region. So they use this jali work. So this is the figure that you can easily understand what is the jali work. And the next important feature is, the important feature of this architecture during this period was the use of the water. They used the water in the premises of the construction, mainly in the form of the pools or fountains or the small drains. It may be either fountain, as we know this is the fountain, and if there is any garden here, there are the small drains here, the water will flow around this garden, so it looks very beautiful. And they also see there are the small pools like structures are also built in some architecture. So why the water is used in this type of architecture? Mainly for the three important purposes. The first one, it is for the religious purpose. Second one, it is to cool the premises which are present around, and also for the decorative purpose. So these are the three important primary uses of the water that is used inside the architecture. And the next one is, the Islamic rulers introduced a charbagh style of the gardening. So what is a charbagh style? If there is any square here, it is divided into mainly 4 types, and the gardening which is present in these squares. So this type of the feature, it is called as charbagh style. And the next important feature is the pitadura. This pitadura technique, it is the inlay of the precious colored stones and also gems onto the walls of the decorations. So if at all there is any wall, inside that wall there is a design or the painting is happening, and in that painting the richly precious stones like the gems and also the colored stones, they were attached to that. So this type of the decoration, it is called as pitadura decoration. So here you can see in this diagram, there are the precious stones which are arranged here. So this kind of the decoration, it is called as pitadura. So I already said that you should remember the difference between the Arcuate style and also the Trabeate style. So let us see the differences. So first one, on the basis of the entrance. So if you see this Trabeate style, which is characterized by the lintel. So lintel means the square type of the opening here. Here if you see the opening of our houses, opening of our doors or windows, we see this trabeate style that is present. And the second one is Arcuate style. This is mainly used under the Indo-Islamic architecture. They are mainly characterized by the domes. Domes will be like this and the arches will be like this. And the second important difference is based on the top. The use of the shikara on the top of the temples, they were generally conical or the curvilinear. So we already studied that in the Nagara school of architecture, Nagara temple style, we see the shikara is present. It may be the curvilinear, and if you see in the Dravidian, it will be conical in shape. So in this style, we see the trabeate is used. And if you see the second one, Arcuate style, we see mainly the use of the dome, and mainly they are hemispherical. They are like this on the top of the mosque. And let us see the next difference, that is based on the minars. The minars are absent in this trabeate style, but the minars are present in the Arcuate style. So what is the minars? If you see the Taj Mahal or Charminar, they are, if there is any building here, on the four sides there are the tall rising structures, they are called as minars. And the next one, it is a building material. This trabeate, it is mainly built by the stone. Stone, it is a primary component for the building of this trabeate style. If you see in this Arcuate style, we use the brick, lime, plaster and also the mortar that were used in the construction of this Arcuate style. So these are the mainly differences between the trabeate style and the Arcuate style that you should remember. And let us move on to the architecture during the Delhi Sultanate time. So if you see the Delhi Sultanate time, the time period, it is from the 1206 to 1526 AD. And if you see the architecture during this Sultanate time, Delhi Sultanate time, it is mainly two types. The first one is the Imperial style and the second one is a Provincial style. If you see the Imperial style, it is mainly patronized by the rulers. And if you see the Provincial style, it is mainly patronized by the local rulers. So if you see the Imperial style here, it is patronized by the rulers of the Delhi, and the Provincial style, it is mainly patronized by the local rulers and also the fiefs. And if you see in the Imperial style, we see mainly 5 dynasty. First one is a Slave Dynasty, second one is a Khilji Dynasty, third one is a Tughlaq Dynasty, fourth one is a Sayyid, and fifth one is a Lodi. So let us see what is the development that is happening from one dynasty to the another dynasty. So let us discuss the first one is the Imperial style. So Imperial style of architecture, which is flourished under the various dynasties which are ruled in this period from the 1206 AD to 1526 AD. And each ruler imparted certain important features of their taste and also their own brand stylist. Okay. So let us see the first important dynasty, that is a Slave Dynasty. Here this Slave Dynasty, it is also called as Ilbari Dynasty. They remained in the power from mainly 1206 to 1290 AD. That means they ruled about 84 years. And during this period, the style of architecture that developed in this period, it is mainly known as the Mamluk style of the architecture. So if you see this diagram, you will understand this is the which is mainly present in the Ajmer in the Rajasthan. It is the Ahai Dinka Chopra, which is located in the Rajasthan. If you see here we can see the Arcuate style of architecture that is developed here, and they do not have any minars. So the minars are absent in this type of Slave Dynasty, that is a Mamluk style of architecture. So if you see some of the important features of this architecture during the Slave Dynasty, the first important one is, during this period, the most of the constructions were based on the remodeling of the existing Hindu structures. Already there are some existing Hindu structures are present, and there is a remodeling of these structures happened mainly during this period. And the first important one you should remember regarding this Mamluk style is the Kutub Minar. This Kutub Minar was the 5-story structure. Mainly it is initiated by the Kutubuddin Aibak, who made only 1 story, and later on again 3 stories were built by Iltutmish, and later on the 5th story was built by the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So this is the important point regarding the prelims point of view. So if you see here, this is the diagram of the Kutub Minar, and this first story was built by the Kutubuddin Aibak, and next 3 were Iltutmish, and the last one was the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. This Kutub Minar was located in the Delhi. And let us see the other examples of the Malva style of architecture. The first important one is the Quwat-ul-Islam Mosque in the Kutub Minar, and the premises which were converted into from the Jain temple. So already I said that there are some of the Hindu sculptures that are present and they were converted, or the remodeling that is happening during this period. So the first of all, there is a Jain temple and it was converted into the Quwat-ul-Islam Mosque. And the next one is Arai Din Ka Jhopra, which is present in the Ajmer. So let us see the next important dynasty, that is the Khalji dynasty. And the time period of this Khalji dynasty ruled India is 1290 AD to the 1320, that is almost 30 years. And they established the style of architecture that is called as Seljuk style of architecture. And under this Seljuk style of architecture, the constructions of this period were marked with the use of the red sandstone. So this is an important prelims fact that you should remember. So the Khalji dynasty mainly used the red sandstone, which is largely available in that region. And it also gave the prominence to the Arcuate style. So the Arcuate style that began in this period, and the mortar was used as a cementing material, which is started during this period. So example is Alai Darwaja. This Alai Darwaja was built by the Alauddin Khilji and also Siri Fort. So if you see this diagram, this is the Alai Darwaja, which is located in the Delhi near the Kutub Minar. So this is the Arcuate style that is seen here. And here you see the dome which is present to this Alai Darwaja as well. So if you see the next important dynasty, that is Tughlaq dynasty, and this Tughlaq dynasty, it is one of the crisis period for the Indo-Islamic architecture, and they use mainly the grey sandstone for their constructions. And in this period, they mainly focused on the strength of the building rather than the decoration part. And these constructions during this period, it was mainly both, there is a combination of the both arch and also the lintel method, mainly for the entrance design. So if you see this arch model that was emerged during the Khalji dynasty, but in this Tughlaq dynasty, they also used the traditional lintel method, that is a trabet style as well. And the one more important feature of this period is the style of the construction that is changed here. And they use the batter system. What is a batter system? If there is any pillar that is raised here, so there is a sloping wall that is built here, mainly to give the strength to this pillar. So this type of the architecture started during this Tughlaq period. It is called as a batter. So if you see some examples of this architecture during this Tughlaq period were the cities of the Tughlaqabad and also Janpahar and also Ferozabad. So these are some of the important cities that all comes under this period. And next one is the Lodi Dynasty. And under this Lodi Dynasty, there was again backseat, but one important prominent feature that came into existence during this Lodi Dynasty is the double domes. So if there is any dome which is placed like this, and over this there is another dome which is built, such that what happened? So what is the use of this dome? This dome will give the strength, and also it decreases the place as well. So if you see the important reasons for the double domes, they include it gives the strength to the structure, and it also lowered the inner height of the dome. So these are the important features that developed during the Lodi Dynasty. And the next important feature is the tombs building during this phase, they were very hard and very big. That means they do not have the intrinsic decoration as well. So if you see the one important feature they adopted is they also used the octagonal shapes and the diameter roughly about the 15 meters, and they started the supporting veranda system as well. So examples of this Lodi architecture was the Lodi Gardens and also the city of Agra. They are established by the Sikandar Lodi. So these are the examples that you should remember at any cost. So let us see the next type of architecture mainly during the medieval period, that is the Provincial School of Architecture. This Provincial School of Architecture came into existence because of the local rulers who were present in that area. The first examples of this Provincial School of Architecture include the Bengal School of Architecture, Malva School of Architecture, and Jaunpur School of Architecture, etc. So let us see this one by one in great detail. So the first one is the Bengal School. So this was evolved during the 1203 to 1573 AD. And this one of the main feature of this Bengal School of Architecture is the bricks and the black marble are used extensively in their constructions. And the one important feature is they adopted the sloping roofs, and these sloping roofs are called as Bangla roofs. We already studied in the Pala and the Sena school, correct? So in the Pala and the Sena school, they use the sloping roofs similar that of the roofs of the huts, and these are called as a Bangla roofs, and these Bangla roofs are adopted by this Bengal school. Okay, the examples of this is Khadam Rasul Mosque, mainly present in the Gore, and also the Adina Mosque in the Pandua. So if you see this image here, you can see the slopes, Bangla roofs that are present here. So this is the example of the Khadam Rasul Mosque in the West Bengal. And let us see the next important school, that is the Jaunpur school, that was emerged in the 1394 to 1479 AD, and it was mainly patronized by the Sharkey rulers. And if you see this Jaunpur, it became a center for the great art and also the cultural activity. And the style of architecture which is developed during this time, it is known as Sharkey style because it is mainly patronized by the Sharkey rulers. And they also avoided the use of the minars, and it is called as a Pathan style. As we know, in the Islamic architecture, there was the minars that were used extensively. But in this Jaunpur school, the minars are not used at all. And one of the unique feature of this Jaunpur school is the use of the bold and also the forceful characters painted on the huge screens in the center and the side base of the prayer halls. So this is the one of the unique feature of the Jaunpur school, that is the bold and the forceful characters. They are painted with the huge screens mainly in the prayer halls. So the example is the Atla Mosque, which is located in the Jaunpur. And let us see the next school, an interesting school, that is the Malva School. It emerged during the 1405 to 1569 AD, mainly in the two important cities in the Malva plateau. Those important cities are Dar and the Mandu. So Dar and the Mandu, they are the two important cities mainly located in the Malva plateau. They become very much prominent seats of the architecture. The most important feature of this Malva school includes they use a different colored stones. Okay, they use a different colored stones, and we also see there is a European influence also seen in this Malva school. And if you see, even the stairs are used to enhance the aesthetics and also the construction. And in this school also, the minars were not used. In Jaunpur they are not used, and in the Malva also they are not used. So what is the extra feature of this Malva? They use a different color, and also we see the influence of the Europe also seen, and they use the steps to enhance the beauty of the construction. And the next one is this Malva School of Architecture. It is also known as Pathan School of Architecture, and we see the finest specimens of the environmental adaptation of this period. It has some important features. The first one is we see there is a prominence which is given to the environment during this school. The first one is whenever they are constructing these buildings or the architecture, they use the large windows are made. So these windows that allows the light and also the movement of the air into the architecture or the buildings. And the next one is the pavilions were lightly arched, which made them airy, and also allowed the building to remain cool during the heat as well. So these are some of the important features. They use the lightly arched such that it will keep the room very cool, and also it allows the movement of the air and air in and out also. And the next one is they use the artificial reservoirs, that means the artificial storage of the water that is seen mainly through the tanks or the ponds or the fountains, etc. So this will keep the surroundings very cool, and these artificial reservoirs, they are called as boulis. And if you see, they use mainly the locally available material, and they also use the batter system. So what is a batter system? Tughlaqs mainly focused on the strength of the architecture or strength of the buildings. If there is any pillar here, there is a sideward sloping pillar, it is built such that it will provide a strength to this pillar. So if you see this diagram, then you will understand what is this batter system. So if you see here the slopes, it is here the wall, it is not straight, there is a slope is present. So here this sloping wall which gives the strength to this building. So this type of the buildings are called as a batter system. And the examples under this Malva school is Rani Roopmati Pavilion, Janj Mahal and Ashrafi Mahal. So these are some of the examples of this Malva school. And let us see the last school, that is a Bijapur school, and it was mainly patronized under the Adil Shah. And this Bijapur style, it is also called as a Deccan style of architecture that is developed during the period of 1490 to the 1656 AD. And if you see, under this period there are number of mosques that were built, there are number of tombs built, there are number of the palaces, they were built with a unique style, and they used mainly 3 arched facade and also the bulbous dome. The dome size was very much increased to its highest in this Bijapur school. And the next important feature is they used the iron clamps mainly for the strong plaster of the mortar, and they also use it mainly to give the strength to the buildings. And if you see, these walls have the rich carvings as well. And one important one is the gold gumbas. This gold gumbas, it is a mausoleum of the Adil Shah in the Bijapur, and this is the one of the largest dome present in the India. So if you see, these are some of the important facts that you should remember regarding the architecture during the Delhi Sultanate time. By this, we are concluding today. I hope you understand this lecture. Thank you so much, and please subscribe to my channel. Please do like, share and comment my videos. Thank you.